So yeah, I haven't made a video in a while. Not for any particular reason, but today, on a random Tuesday, once I first started my channel, I realized that um, the videos on the weekends were getting more views. So I decided to kind of focus on making videos on the weekends, and of course, that's when I have more time as well. But then obviously if I skip a weekend or two, then it ends up being quite a while since I upload. But the whole reason why I said all of that is because today is just a random Tuesday. And yeah, I had the feeling of turning on the camera. I don't really know what I'm gonna speak about. I have like throughout the days, just on an average day, I'll get these random ideas and I'll write it down on the notes. Like I literally have over 300 video ideas. Um, and sometimes I make like, a lot of the videos I've made have been from these, and sometimes it's just like bringing them all together. But sometimes I'll just look at all of them and just none of them seem appealing, and I just feel like speaking, but I also don't feel like speaking. Like there's nothing. I feel like there's nothing to like say. Like just different thoughts, just how life is strange. Mm, I don't even know. Don't even know. Because really and truly, obviously, the point of this channel is to kind of speak about truth. But the truth doesn't even really need to be spoken. Like the truth will be true anyway, and the truth can't even really be communicated. So trying to do it, um, is kind of it's futile really. Trying to like speak about truth or like explain it doesn't even really make sense or make a difference. Um, yeah, recently I was at work a couple weeks ago and I saw this guy playing with these kind of beads and flipping them around, and I was curious as to what they were, and then obviously I did a bit of research. And there's different ones. There's like Greek beads, like called columboi. There's there's these more Russian ones called chotki or chetki. Um, like these ones are both of these are kind of cheap though. Like these are like the columboi. You can do kind of different tricks on them, but I'm just a beginner. I've just had these for a week or two. But they're quite fun. Nice little hobby. You know what I'm saying? Especially because obviously um because I've been smoking for a long time. I've been cutting down on my smoking quite a lot. Like, I barely smoke anymore, but I still do every now and then. Um, but one of the things that I realized that one of my friends made me realize like quite a few years ago is that like humans were used to using our hands. Like it's like we're addicted to using our hands. I feel like that's even why like phone addiction is so big. Why everyone's on their phone. It's not even like that. This like I don't know if it's just me or I feel like everyone's getting kind of tired of this shit. Like there's not even anything to see anymore. I'll just be scrolling, then I'll just go off it, and then like it's just like the body just wants to do stuff, and like especially use its hands. And I feel like that's why smoking, drinking, like scrolling, all of these things are big addictions, common addictions, like through like with everyone, vaping and shit. Like, and then when I saw like these kind of things, I realized I kind of like wanted to give my like kind of reduce these other things, right? Like smoking or whatever. even though I barely drink as well. I don't really drink like that. Never really. I do drink every now and then, but like it never became like a problem or anything like that. But smoking, I actually did. Um, like it was a point where for quite a few years where it was daily while I was smoking. Um, but I don't smoke daily anymore. And yeah, these kind of things, I just saw them and felt like getting them. And also, it's a conscious way of kind of giving yourself something to do, your hands something to do, which isn't like just scrolling and all of this type of shit. And I had a little idea I wrote down in my notes. I'm gonna actually check later. I was gonna try and like compare my screen time from before having these and then after. Um, but yeah, these ones are just kind of cheap. But I've ordered a few other ones, like better ones. So maybe in my next video you'll see. But yeah, you can do all kinds of crazy tricks on them. As I said, I'm just learning. So, but yeah, I think a lot of them like started off as like religious prayer beads and so on. But they're not really as much to do with those. Like some of these are called worry beads and shit. Like, I don't really have anxiety or anything like that. But yeah, just if you was wondering. And as I said, I don't even have anything like any topics in mind. I'm just gonna kind of speak freestyle. Um, yeah, can't obviously it's winter times right now, so things are getting dark like very soon, very early. Can get dark around 4:35. Um, it's crazy when you're working. You're waking up early. You wake up when it's dark. You go work. You come back and it's dark. Yeah, the winter times gets long. Does get long. Even right now, my heater is broken. So obviously, I have these electric ones, but they take up a lot of energy. And yeah, I need to fix the heater. And it's been broken for a few months, but it's just now in the winter where it's actually kind of affecting things. But yeah. Let me think if there's anything actually specific that I can actually go into rather than just rambling about nothing. No, maybe just about the world events, what's going on at the moment. Seeing escalation, supposedly World War III is heating up. I wonder if that's gonna happen. It's so strange. It's like we live in the times we live in now. I feel like current times, modern times, because of technology and the acceleration of things, right? It's like modern times are the hardest to predict the future. It's always been hard to predict the future, but when things were just more sustainable, the rate of change wasn't as accelerated. It was easy to kind of predict where things were going, but nowadays there's so many different possibilities of things that can happen. No one really kind of knows what's going to happen, and it makes it kind of hard to plan for the future. Makes it kind of hard. That I feel like that's why so many people feel lost as well. The current economy as well is insane. I think people are starting to realize like the whole mechanics of things and just with the inflation, with the Fed printing, with just all these things, and yeah. feel like life right now, not just for me, like but I feel like for everyone, it's I feel like a good way to describe it is that it's like kind of grey right now. Everything feels kind of grey. It's not even that things are terribly going wrong. It's just it's just that things are just so like I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like something I was thinking about as well is because it feels to me right like because I was watching one video or a couple videos and like one guy was saying kind of how like life is boring, there's nothing to do, and how everything's already been done, right? And I've spoken a little bit about that in some other videos, how like, everything is just a copy of a copy of a copy. That's kind of, in a sense, what the Matrix is. Um, but then I kind of think about it and I think, like, is it just that, obviously there's a few different options, but is it just that humans, like, have we really exhausted, like, all the possibilities and so on? And of course there's always new things you can do, but have we kind of like crossed a certain threshold where most of the possibilities um, that we could have done and could have taken and so on and so forth, like that they've all been exhausted, and there's less new things that we can do now than compared to how it was like previously. Is it that, or have humans just run out of like creativity, or is it that, or is it neither of those and there's more things to do and we are going to create more, but it's just that we're just in like a consolidation or a kind of drawback period in a macro sense for all of humanity, to where we've kind of had a big boom in the last kind of century and so on, and now we're kind of like pulling back, resetting for the next leg of expansion of like for humanity? Or has humanity actually like hit its peak? Like, has humanity already hit its peak? Because obviously we usually assume that it's just always onwards and upwards, but, and I'm not saying Armageddon or anything, but like species, just in general, species go extinct. Like, there's the rise and fall of empires, all kinds of things, right? Time, impermanence. So yes, there is like evolution, and we learn and get better and so on and so forth, and there is kind of like a growth and upwards trajectory of evolution for many species and for individuals and so on and so forth. But then there's also the arc and like the collapse as well. So if you are at any point above zero in positive, then there's going to be like a collapse back as well. So it's kind of like, have we already hit the peak, and are we actually just degenerating now? Or I don't know. Another idea I had as well is just that, like, partially what kind of has gotten humanity into this kind of situation, and it's not even like humanity's fault per se, but it's just, I feel, and it's not even just specifically humanity, but I just feel like all sentient beings, right, what really drives us is desire, right? And you can only desire something you don't have. But it's usually, but for you to also desire something, you have to know something about it. So perhaps you've experienced it in the past, or someone's told you a story about the experience, or something like that. So you have some kind of connection to the thing, but you don't have it right now. So that's kind of how you desire things, right? And so the moment you have, when you actually understand how this works, the moment you have this, like you get the thing that you desired previously, then you no longer desire it. And so that's kind of like what's happening with relationships. That's what's happening with just like everything nowadays. Like there's essentially there's this core like assumption in the collective consciousness where we're programmed to want more. We're programmed to want what we don't have, and we're programmed to want more, right? This is why everyone's so greedy, everyone's so cutthroat, everyone's, you know what I'm saying, dog eat dog world, because essentially every single participant just wants more than what they have. So it doesn't even matter how much they have. This is why billionaires want more, millionaires want more, the poor people want more, everyone wants more, right? But because there's not a like finite amount to get, right, to win the game, and then you've won or something, like it's an endless game. So it's a game you can never win, no matter how much you get, right? Um, and also homeostasis, just the way our systems work. Same way, like homeostasis works well for us in terms of like painful situations. Like we get used to certain painful situations to where you can be in a situation today and feel relatively stable and unfazed. And if you were placed in that same situation 5 years ago, you would collapse and crumble because you didn't have the thick skin. You didn't get adjusted to those conditions, right, over time. So that's how homeostasis kind of saves us in terms of like not suffering as much as we usually like as we would. But then at the same time, it works kind of in opposite effect when it comes to pleasure and joy, where no matter what the thing is, if you really love it or whatever, like if you do it back to back to back repetitively, then you're going to get used to it. And then even that's not going to give you joy anymore. Even that's not going to give you pleasure anymore. So it's kind of like you have an insatiable hunger, right? That's kind of what desire is, and it can never really be like filled indefinitely. That's what we always think. We always think just that next thing, just that one more thing, and then I'll be full. And then you get that, and then you're not even thinking about that. You're thinking about what you don't have again. So this is kind of like the disease that humanity is suffering, and that's kind of what got us here, in the good way and in the bad way. That's what got us to all this technology where we created like laptops and the internet and all of this stuff, which is good, right? But then at the same, and that's what kind of brought us to this peak of evolution. But at the same time, that's what's going to be our demise. Is that no matter how much we get, there's never going to be enough. And in the end, like humanity will probably swallow up the earth. Like essentially, it's a game that you can't win. And that's what's always gonna keep like conflict perpetual. Because like if you look at it, like for example, with the Putin, like the Russian Ukraine war, Russia's kind of like invading some of the Ukrainian land, and then before it was supposed to have been Russia, and so on and so forth, all this stuff. And it's the same with like the Israel and Palestine, and they was promised this land, but they was like all of this kind of stuff, right? But everyone just wants more. Like they want land, they want more land. You have money, you want more money. Like you have respect, you want more respect. You have power, you want more power. Like that's what you want. It's not even the power, it's that you want more. And that's a game that can never end. Like you can never be fulfilled. Do you understand that? Like so that's why everyone's just depressed and like unfulfilled, because they're doing a whole lot, trying to get achieve a result that they can never achieve. And then it kind of starts to feel like, what's that term? Like quicksand. It feels like you're in quicksand. Feels like you're on the treadmill, running, burning real energy, but really getting nowhere. Know what I'm saying? And yeah, like that will never go away as well. They'll always, no matter how much like let's say for example America's the power of the world, right? The central power. They're gonna want to increase that and always maintain that status. And all these other countries who have power, right? They're gonna want to become number one. And there's always gonna be that struggle, and then these battles are always gonna happen. And it's because both sides want more, and they're battling for the same thing. See, so that's just a game set up for failure. And it's the same with the economy. It's the same with dating. It's the same with just everything. Like survival is such a strange game. Like when you think about it, it just comes down to nourishing the body, right? Like getting shelter, nourishing the body, and the rest is all just entertainment in various different ways. It's all just entertainment to kind of like, because even when you've nourished the body, that desire, that void that needs to get filled, that endless bottomless pit, like that's still not filled. No matter how much you eat, like your body can be filled, but your spirit can never be filled. So then that's when you start watching something, or you start playing a game, or you start like calling someone, doing something, like go on a date or go on a holiday or go on this or whatever. Like it's, you're always trying to fill that gap, but that gap can never get filled, because that's what you are. You are the space. Like you're made out of space. Like you literally are the void. It's like you're the black hole that swallows all the light. All this light you see around you, like you're the black hole that is converging to, and you just it will just never end. Like, no matter how much light there is, there will never be enough light for you. And that's why everyone's so unsatisfied and always battling for scraps, because they all want more and none of them can ever get enough. Like if there was actually a threshold to where, even though experience can't be measured, but let's say you had 10 units of experience and then you would be satisfied for life or fulfilled. Or you had this much amount of food or this much amount of sex and then you'll be satisfied for life. But then like there's literally no amount of sex that can satisfy you, no amount of food, no amount of experiences. And everyone's acting on like the blind assumption that there is like an amount that you can get that will get you there. The promised land, heaven over there, the greener patch of grass on the other side. Anywhere but here. Anywhere but now. But yeah, another thought I had recently, or what I kind of realized, is that even if you're actually highly conscious and you've like awakened or enlightened or whatever, um, like as that happened, the activity of the mind like goes down, or you like disidentify it, so that what like even when the mind is happening, you're not even really paying attention to it. Um, and then when that happens, you start to think that like you start to think that you've kind of transcended the mind completely, right? But then like essentially, like I was gonna make a video that I was gonna call it don't let the ego, don't let the mind hijack your awakening. I think that's a funny one. And because essentially, like let's just say, I hate this like term of awakening and enlightenment, like as some kind of state or thing that you achieve or attain. Like doesn't even really make sense. Um, but let's just say like an enlightened person, right? Them being enlightened isn't conditional on whether they're thinking or not, or whether they can cease thought. But ceasing of thought essentially gets rid of one of the main obstacles of realizing the truth, or realizing like becoming awakened, because the thoughts and the narrative, the soundtrack is always being overlaid, and it's too much noise. It's too much noise, so it's like you can't hear it. So it's kind of like blocking it. It's like you have a clean mirror, and then like the noise is like smudges. Like the thoughts are like smudges. So you can only see the smudges. You can't really see the clean reflection. So when you are able to consciously cease thought, right, to where you're not thinking, but you're still fully alert and conscious. Now, most people can't do that. 99% of people, they don't know how to stop the mind. They'll try and say, all right, cool, I'm going to stop thinking. Oh, no, wait, I'm thinking. Oh, yes, I'm finally not thinking. Oh, shit, that's a thought. That's what they're doing. like you could literally pause the video right now and try to go 5 minutes or 10 minutes just without thinking. Like, try not to think more than 5 thoughts in 10 minutes and see if you can do it. And if you can't do it, then you know for a fact that you're not awakened. but but anyway, like, see, that's getting a bit off the tangent. But yeah, like them not thinking doesn't mean that they're awakened. But that's essentially what helps you be able to see clearly, right? And then that's what actually naturally happens. That's like one of the main shifts that I realized, like from 2020, when I had this kind of like first like this major shift that I would have called like enlightenment. Um, Even though it wasn't like some big experience, when it happened, it was just like a click. It was just like a real, just like visceral shift. Like something just changed that could have never gone back. Um, but one of the main things was that, because like before that, because I'd heard of a lot of these things of like, oh, like in meditation, like just trying to stop the mind or not identifying with the mind or all of this kind of stuff. Um, So I was trying to do that like consciously. I was trying to stop it and so on. But then after that point, I didn't have to try and stop it. It just stopped by itself. And like I could use it. It's more like most people, their mind's on autopilot. So if they're not trying, it's just thinking by itself. And then they can try to think specific thoughts. But then even when they're not trying to think specific thoughts, like thoughts are still just happening. But then after this shift, it's like, if you're not trying, then you're not thinking, and then if you have the intention to think, you'll just be able to think, just like that. But then as soon as you don't like even have the intention to think, your mind will just be blank. Like it'll just be like, but it's not like you can't perceive, like it's not like you're still not conscious, because people who are so identified with their mind, to them, imagine in a state without thoughts, it almost seems like to them like they wouldn't be conscious. They wouldn't even be able to perceive, because they don't even know what perception is. They're so used to like seeing their secondary label, like their inference, like what they're inferring about their perception. They're not even seeing the real perception. It's like they're not seeing the real sunset. They're seeing the mirror of they're seeing a reflection, a distorted reflection, if you get what I'm saying. And then when you're not thinking, then you're seeing a clear reflection. And then when you even go beyond that, then you just look at the actual sun. But my whole point of all of this was that, yeah, when the mind kind of started to cease naturally for me, I, I felt like, all right, cool, like this state, so to speak, this enlightened state, like, because people have like enlightenment experiences or stuff like this, like on psychedelics or after meditating or whatever, and then they try and hold it, like they try to keep it. Like, you know, like in real life, like let's say you make money, you're trying to keep it. Like you don't want to lose it, because if you don't like do things right, you're going to lose it. Like naturally it'll go away because you gained it. So that means you can lose it. But because you can't lose it. And it's just the natural bottom line. You don't have to do anything to keep it. So then I realized, oh, like I didn't even have to try and like keep my mind down or anything like that, or do any like thing in particular, because it couldn't have been lost even if I tried. But yeah, essentially my whole point of explaining all of this is that even still, even though all of that's right and you can never lose your awakening, what can start to happen then is that your mind starts to take on the identity as an awakened person, or you start to think that you have the truth or something like that. Even though you're conscious of the truth, like no one has the truth. That's why, in a sense, that's why I don't like saying like there's enlightened people or thing, because like it almost essentially what you're saying is like someone like has a monopoly on truth. Like someone has it, like they have the truth, you don't. Let's ask them what the truth is. Like no, like no one has the truth. The truth can't be had. Like the truth is just true. Either you're conscious of it or you're not. Like but like the mind is like tricky. It can start to like if you don't be vigilant, even though you won't lose your awakening, but you can still get a little bit of distorted layers on top of that, like to where your mind starts to like you slowly, it will happen slowly, you'll start creeping back in and trying to like take back its domain. um And the mind is like, because the mind is almost like the perceiver. It's the one perceiving, it's the one narrating, it's the one labeling. So it'll be like, oh, I was the one who had that experience. I was the one who saw it. I'm the one seeing. Like all of this kind of stuff. I'm the one speaking. And then, like, so for example, if you feel like you're experiencing something, like you personally, you are experiencing something, then that like that right there that you're referring to yourself as I, like that's the ego, the one experiencing. And that's what needs to be dropped for the truth to be like clear. But then the whole problem is that the mind or the ego is the one that wants to see the truth. The ego is the one that wants to see the truth, but the ego can never see the truth. The ego has to die, and then the truth will be there by itself. But see, the truth doesn't need to even be seen. That's what I'm saying. An illusion needs to be seen for it to appear real. Like an illusion, you have to see it for it to even seem true. But the truth doesn't even need to be seen by anyone, and it will still be true. So that's the main difference. But then obviously the mind is going to start thinking that I'm the one seeing truth and so on and so forth. And it can slowly kind of like creep back in. And then you just have to kind of realize that and like consciously just, as I said, because the mind, like the mind doesn't really need to be dropped to like awaken, but it does help to learn the skill of being able to keep it down, like shut off the mind. Like you need to have a switch with just that you operate with intention, to where like you need to be able to keep your mind so like one pointed and symmetrical onto itself that it doesn't like, you're not give like, because the mind when it's thinking it's like it's oscillating, it's like moving. You can only think when your energy is like moving, like it's scattering. You're thinking it's this or it's that or so on and so forth, like you're thinking and scattering. So but when you keep your consciousness like and your attention so on one point and you don't even allow like it to waver, then it's impossible to think. Like realize that's why in meditation they tell you to focus on your breath, or like you can put a flame and focus on the flame, like stare at the flame for half an hour and don't move, or point on the screen or whatever. That's why a lot of these meditations is about like concentrating on one point. Because if you actually concentrate on one point or you focus, like even when you're doing sports or you're in the zone, it's because you're so focused that you're not even thinking. You're just so conscious of everything. You don't need to interpret or think what it is. Like thoughts are all like hypotheses. You're hypothesizing what is it. But consciousness is seeing directly. Yeah. And it's only when you believe reality or the world to be physical, right? And you believe that you're just a subject perceiving these physical objects, and what you're seeing or perceiving is just like some kind of representation of the real thing. Only then, that's when the mind feels like it needs to be there interpreting what is being perceived to like correctly view reality. Like you're seeing, oh yeah, I see this, but maybe it's this way. Like you, because there's been times where you perceive things and it's not what is perceived to be. Like there's optical illusions, all these things. So the mind feels like it needs to be there to interpret. But then when you realize that there's not even multiple layers, like it's not even like there's like this thing, which is a representation of the physical matter behind it, or representation of something behind it, or something else, or so on and so forth. When you realize there's only one layer, there's only what you see. There's nothing causing it. There's nothing behind it. There's no substance to it. There's only what you see. There's only what you hear. There's only what you smell. Right? Then there's nothing to interpret, because like you know you have 100% access to the truth. So there's nothing even to interpret. You don't even need to think about what it is. Yeah, I don't know. Might leave that one there. Bitcoin's having a little correction after nearly hitting 100k, basically hitting 100k. Now it's had quite a decent correction. We'll see. We'll see if that was the end, but I feel like it's gonna have another peak. Should have one last peak before the real crash happens. And that's another like thought I had for a video. I'm saying like that we live in the silent, like this is the silent depression. Like, if you look at in the 1920s to 1930s, like there was the Great Depression, and I feel like this is like a different version of the silent depression. Like if you even look, like birth rates are down, dating is down, depression is up, mental illness is up, anxiety is up, suicides are up. Like literally, just everything that's good is down, everything that's bad is up. Like, and everyone. But what's so strange about now is that everyone's acting like everything's normal. But then, if you actually speak to people individually, everyone's feeling it. Everyone's feeling the same. Um, and there's this new trend of videos that these people just one person by themselves speaking about, like expressing themselves about, like, oh, saying, oh, so, and I'm homeless and I quit my job, or I don't have no friends, or I'm a 50-year-old guy in a middle life crisis, and this and or oh, the economy's, and all these things where it's just individuals just expressing themselves, like, I don't know, it's like through the internet now. It's not even through like social circles or anything anymore. Like it's, I don't know, the I also kind of had a theory as well that the internet is almost like this human, like, collective consciousness. It's like our hive mind. That's like that's what the internet is, and that's what it's kind of evolving to. Um, it's like the internet of things. It's like a network which is decentralized, and everyone is its own node, and it's like this crazy network of information. It's kind of crazy. Because I even thought about these things when I was young. I was thinking like we use the internet, everyone uses it, we kind of know it, but like if you can't ask someone what is the internet, like it's hard to really describe what it is. Very nebulous. Um, but yeah, I literally just covered like 5 or 6 different ideas, but none of them I didn't go too deep into. About 40 minutes. I think I'll leave that one there.